She fell like a maple seed, pirouetting on an autumn breeze. A column of light streamed a hole in the sky world, marking her path where only darkness had been before.
Hello. Come here.
Stinky wants to hear the story. It took her a long time to fall. In fear, or maybe hope, she clutched a bundle tightly in her hand. Hurtling downward, she saw only dark water below. But in that emptiness, there were many eyes gazing up at the sudden shaft of light. They saw there a small object, a mere dust mote in the beam. As it grew closer, they could see that it was a woman, arms outstretched, long black hair billowing behind her as she spiraled towards them. The geese nodded to one another and rose together from the water in a wave of goose music. She felt the beat of their wings as they flew beneath her to break her fall. Far from the only home she'd ever known, she caught her breath at the warm embrace of soft feathers as they gently carried her downward, and so it began. The geese could not hold on to the woman above the water for much longer, so they called a council to decide what to do. Resting on their wings, she saw them all gather. Loons, otters, swans, beavers, fish of all kinds. A great turtle floated in their midst and offered his back for her to rest upon. Gratefully, she stepped from the goose wings onto the dome of his shell. The others understood that she needed land for her home and discussed how they might serve her need. The deep divers among them had heard of mud at the bottom of the water and agreed to go find some. Loon dove first, but the distance was too far, and after a long while he surfaced with nothing to show for his efforts. One by one, the other animals offered to help. Otter, beaver, sturgeon, but the depth of the darkness and the pressures were too great for even the strongest of swimmers. They returned, gasping for air, with their heads ringing. Some did not return at all. Soon, only little Muskrat was left, the weakest diver of all. He volunteered to go, while the others looked on doubtfully. His small legs flailed as he worked his way downward, and he was gone a very long time. They waited and waited for him to return, fearing the worst for their relative, and before long, a stream of bubbles rose up the small limp body of Muskrat. He had given his life to aid this helpless human, but then the others noticed that his paw was tightly clenched, and when they opened it, there was a small handful of mud. Turtle said, "Here, put it on my back, and I will hold it." Sky Woman bent and spread the mud with her hands across the shell of the turtle. Moved by the extraordinary gifts of the animals, she sang in thanksgiving, and then began to dance, her feet caressing the earth. The land grew and grew as she danced her thanks, from the dab of mud on the turtle's back until the whole earth was made, not by Sky Woman alone, but from the alchemy of all animals' gifts, coupled with her deep gratitude. Together they formed what we know today as Turtle Island, our home. Like any good guest, Sky Woman had not come empty-handed. The bundle was still clutched in her hand. When she toppled from the hole in Sky World, she had reached out to grab onto the tree of life that grew there. In her grasp were branches, fruits, and seeds of all kinds of plants. These she scattered onto the new ground and carefully tended each one until the world turned from brown to green. Sunlight streamed through the hole from Sky World, allowing the seeds to flourish. Wild grasses, flowers, trees, and medicines spread everywhere. And now that the animals too had plenty to eat, many came to live with her on Turtle Island. I wanted to begin talking about Indigenous Peoples Month with stories from Indigenous peoples. A story I've never heard before. The story of how the earth was created, on how we all came to live on Turtle Island. This story is so beautiful to me, especially as someone who grew up Christian, learning that the world, the first world, and the first humans took a gift from the earth and were condemned, while in Indigenous tribes, in the natural way of life, the earth gave to us, and we gave to the earth, and we lived together in harmony. November was declared Indigenous Peoples Month 35 years ago, but the celebration of Indigenous peoples has been happening for generations. What began as a week of celebration quickly outgrew its 7 days. A week turned into a month. If you live in America, a month should turn into 12. The foods we eat, the medicine we use, even the highways that we have all been crafted with Indigenous knowledge. November was chosen not because of the sordid history of Thanksgiving, but because of the natural way of life. November marks the end of the harvest, which is a time of giving and celebration. There are 574 tribes in the United States of America, which totals to 7.4 million American Indians and Alaskan Natives. totaling to 2% of the population in a land where they used to make up 100% of the population. The goal of Indigenous Peoples Month is to educate and celebrate. There's a diverse history, culture, tradition, language, as well as recognize the contributions made to art, science, government, and military service. I wanted to know more about the tribes that lived on the land that I now reside on. From what I can tell, this land used to belong to the Potawatomi tribe. The Potawatomi are part of the Council of Three Fires, alongside the Ojibwe and the Ottawa. Potawatomi are referred to as the youngest brother of the three in the council. They call themselves Bodawatomi, which means those who tend to the hearth fire. The Potawatomi practice the 7 grandfather teachings, which are wisdom, respect, love, honesty, humility, bravery, and truth towards all of creation. The Potawatomi tribe is made up of multiple different clans, each with their own spiritual and religious practices, traditions, song, dance, rituals, medicine, ceremonies, and knowledge. Something so beautiful about the Potawatomi people, and something that we still practice today, is the recognition of the 3 sisters. The corn is the firstborn and grows straight and stiff. It is a stem with a lofty goal. Laddering upwards, leaf by long ribboned leaf, it must grow tall quickly. Making a strong stem is its highest priority at first. It needs to be there for its younger sister, the bean. Beans put out a pair of heart-shaped leaves on just a stub of a stem, then another pair, and another, all low to the ground. The bean focuses on leaf growth while the corn concentrates on height. Just about the time that the corn is knee-high, the bean shoot changes its mind, as middle children are wont to do. Instead of making leaves, it extends itself into a long vine, a slender green string with a mission. In this teenage phase, hormones set the shoot tip wandering, inscribing a circle in the air, a process known as circumnation. The tip can travel a meter in a day, pirouetting in a loopy circle dance until it finds what it's looking for, a corn stem or some other vertical support. Touch receptors along the vine guide it to wrap itself around the corn in a graceful upward spiral. For now, it holds back on making leaves, giving itself over to embracing the corn, keeping pace with its height growth. Had the corn not started early, the bean vine would strangle it, but if the timing is right, the corn can easily carry the bean. Meanwhile, the squash, the late bloomer of the family, is steadily extending herself over the ground, moving away from corn and bean, setting up broad-lobed leaves like a stand of umbrellas, waving at the end of hollow petunias. The leaves and vines are distinctly bristly, giving second thoughts to nibbling caterpillars. As the leaves grow wider, they shelter the soil at the base of corn and bean, keeping moisture in and other plants out. Native people speak of this gardening style as the 3 sisters. While we may not grow the corn and beans together like they should be, every summer I watch the corn and the beans rise, corn on one side, beans on the other. In the following summer, I see them switch places. They help each other, giving back to the earth so the earth can provide for each sister. While the Potawatomi people might not have known the exact scientific reason why these all work together, they knew that they did. They had their own science. They knew how to love and care for the earth because the earth loves and cares for them. The land remembers what we forget, how to care for one another. The first book I read for our Indigenous Peoples Month was Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. It is a collection of essays, part memoir, part storytelling, part poetry, part prose. It's all just a really beautiful blend of storytelling. I listened to this on audiobook and it is read by the author, and to me it was so peaceful and soothing and really beautiful to hear Robin talking about her story and the story of Indigenous communities with her voice. Robin Wall Kimmerer is a botanist, and she spent her whole life wondering about all the intricacies and the delicacies and just the plain curiosity of plants. So she sought to understand the land that we're on through the art of science. She's a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, and she thinks that and believes that our oldest and best teachers are our plants and our animals. So she takes us on a journey of learning and understanding and appreciating everything that this land has offered us. She tells us the story of Sky Woman and the creation of Turtle Island, and takes us through all kinds of different stories from indigenous communities. The tale of the three sisters, the children of Sky Woman, the spouse of Sky Woman, all this incredible, beautiful knowledge that we don't get access to in our textbooks. This book was really outstanding. It was such a beautiful call to action in acknowledging the land as its own creation and not as just something to take things from. She talks about giving back to the earth and thanking the earth for all of its gifts and letting the land talk to you and talk back to the earth, to give the earth thanks for your coffee, to give it blessings and to talk to it as if it can hear you. Because it can. Earth and nature is as much a part of us as we are of it. We would not be alive without the simple grain under our feet, without the sky giving us water. It's all such simple, basic understandings of nature, with the reminder that we need to be grateful to it and to take care of it. Mother Earth is our mother, and she provides for us as much as we need to help her and provide to her as well. If you've never read this book, if you're a citizen of America and you grew up with indigenous names all around you, the name of your local hospital or community college or river, and not ever taking the time to understand where all of that came from, if you're like me and your town has a festival for one of the three sisters and you never questioned her or wondered where she came from or why she's so highly regarded, it's time to start. This was a really beautiful beginning to understanding and appreciating nature. I highly recommend this book. I also really recommend the audiobook. It was really, really beautiful. It read like poetry, which for me, as someone who does not have the brain capacity to understand and retain poetry, this is a book I'm going to have to read like 12 more times. Fine with me. This book was really beautiful, and I will be reading it and keeping it and cherishing it forever. 5 stars. Highly recommend. Really love. The second book that I read for Indigenous Peoples Month was A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Little Badger. This is a book I found at my library sale, and I loved the title, and I thought that it would be a really interesting book based on that alone. It's a story about Nina, who is Laipan, and she lives in our world. And she's always felt that there was something else in the world, hearing the tales from her great-grandmother, trying to decode the stories that she told her in a language that she doesn't speak. Ollie is a cottonmouth snake, and also a kid, from the spirit and monster world. He was cast from his home and had to go live on his own, on the banks of a bottomless lake. He makes friends with different animals, and when his best friend suddenly collapses, Ollie has to figure out how to save him. Nina and Ollie don't know about each other, but a catastrophic event on Earth brought them together. And there are others who would kill to keep them apart. I gave this book, I think like a 4, 4.5, 4.75 out of 5. It was really close to being 5 stars for me. If I was like 12, I think I would really have given it 5 stars. It had a very childlike whimsy to it. Seeing the spirit world and the hope of Nina and the hope of Ollie, these children that are fighting to save things that they love. It had that kind of childlike wonder and whimsy to it, while still also dealing with very real and adult themes of extinction and murder and people fearing something they don't know or understand, like the animal people from the spirit world and their existence on Earth. Also, completely unrelated to the content of the book, the binding of this book was amazing. Just the corners are some of the sharpest I've ever seen. It's got like a perfect rectangular 90-degree angles. What else could you ask for? We're gonna get naked for a second. Even the like inside flap, it's so cute. It has all of their little portraits on it of all the characters. And on the back, it has them in animal form. I think children would really love this story. It was really easy to read and very magical and whimsical, and it had so much. I don't have any other word to describe it other than magical. It was really, really magical. And something I think that children would really love and relate to and appreciate. On the complete other end of the spectrum, I read Never Whistle at Night which is an anthology. So it's a collection of short stories. So every short story was written by a different indigenous person. One was written by Darcy Little Badger, which was so cool. So I read 2 of her stories for this month. We're going to take a second to just appreciate the cover. Clap. Thank you. A lot of these stories were very good and spooky. Some didn't quite hit the mark for me. So I gave this a total collection 4 out of 5 stars. I liked how in every story, it didn't feel like it was, forgive the phrase, trauma porn against the indigenous community. It felt still so humanizing, which is such a low bar, but there are a lot of horror stories, I think, that dehumanize people of color. Obviously, having the story written by people of color, it's going to be a lot easier to have stories that are humanizing of them. Also in the sense that they were not always the villain in their story, but sometimes they were. There's a lot of diversity within this book about the different roles for people of color having taken in this book, which I appreciated because I think that we're often seeing people of color getting stereotyped and typecast as a certain thing. So this had a lot of diversity, obviously, because it was written by like 30 different people of color. Very cool, very beautiful, very wonderful. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was spooky. I learned to never whistle at night, so you don't know what's going to answer you. I don't know which one's my favorite because the second I stopped reading it, I immediately forgot what happened. That's not exactly true, but it's a little true. Snakes Are Born in the Dark. That one was freaky as fuck. I liked that one a lot. Behind Colin's Eyes was good. Was it Quantum? Yeah, that one was freaky. That was a good one. One of the last ones I read was really, really spooky. Collections. That was the one. That one was also spooky. So these were really good. Some of them were a 10 out of 10. Some were not quite. None of them were objectively bad. It's just hard to have them all be like a 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10 when there's 30 stories and we're all different people. So like I'm not going to like all 30 stories. That's fine. It's fine. It happens. So if you want something spooky to read while it gets dark at 4 p.m., this is for you. And that was how I celebrated Indigenous Peoples Month. I read 3 truly amazing books. I learned a lot about the history of the earth and even the grain that I eat every single day. It was really fun. This was probably, honestly, don't tell the others, my favorite month so far. Having only been doing this from September, so I'm really looking forward to celebrating it again next year and incorporating the truths of Indigenous culture into daily life of learning and appreciating the earth as herself and loving her as she deserves. These are obviously not the only 3 books in the whole world that represent Indigenous peoples. I have some more, not many, not enough, surely. In my Goodreads, if you are on Goodreads, it is Madly Peculiar, same way it's spelled here. And if you have any book recommendations, drop them in the comments. Someone recommended the other book that Robin Wall Kimmerer wrote, so that will be on my TBR for the future. December is coming. Technically, she's here. Time is relative. There is not a like month-long cultural celebration for December. There are the December holidays like Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, all of that happening in December. So I'm just doing some holiday reading for this month. That's the plan for next month. Follow me on Instagram. You can see the book posts from this wonderful book stack that we've created. And on TikTok, if I ever post there, you should be there to see it. Thank you so much for being here. I had the most wonderful time celebrating Indigenous Peoples Month, and I cannot wait for a whole year of monthly celebrations with you. So I am so looking forward to it. I love being here. I love you for being here. And go hug a tree and learn something new. Go read something. Okay, love you. Bye!